Estimate online.
nextdaycarpet.net.
Call today and get new floors next day at Next Day Carpet and Flooring.
Good morning, America. This morning, eruption emergency. Red hot lava shooting into the sky. Hawaii's Kilauea volcano closing roads and destroying homes. New fissures opening and toxic fumes filling the air. Our live report from the Big Island this morning.
Fighting back, Trump attorney Rudy Giuliani attempting to clean up statements he made last week when he contradicted the president about hush agreement payments made to Stormy Daniels. Plus, Stormy's appearance on SNL overnight.
A storm's a coming, baby. Shooting confusion, the Waffle House massacre, as suspect Travis Reinking gets ready to appear in court. An official saying dispatchers first sent police to the wrong Nashville location. So what happened?
Shipwrecked, the nightmare scene on the Carnival cruise ship called the Dream. Water pouring from the ceiling, looking like a scene out of Titanic. The crew springing into action, the company's explanation this morning.
And buzzer beater with time running out in the Cavs playoff game against the Raptors. It's LeBron James to the rescue. Can Cleveland seal the deal tomorrow night?
Live from ABC News in New York, this is Good Morning America.
There's a humble pounding of the chest for LeBron James. We're going to dig into that a little bit. Good morning, everybody. We're going to get right to our top story on this Sunday, the unfolding disaster on Hawaii's Big Island that could get even worse. Officials announced overnight that they are bracing for volcanic eruptions, which means this could last for weeks.
Yeah, look at this new aerial footage of lava flowing into electrical lines, which then explode. This lava has left a path of destruction as it flows into streets and people's homes.
And we do have some new video just coming in, a view of a new fissure, a crack in the earth, from which lava is spewing forth, one of many new fissures that's opened up.
So here's what we know this morning. There have been 95 earthquakes in the last 24 hours, caused, we're told, by the underground shifting of the magma.
5 homes have been destroyed, 1,800 people evacuated, with at least 10 fissures open at this moment.
Making all this worse, these fissures are also spewing toxic gas into the air, and ABC's Marcy Gonzalez is right there on the Big Island of Hawaii with the latest. Marcy, good morning to you.
Guys, good morning. On top of that, some smaller cracks open in the streets that officials are keeping a very close eye on this morning. The eruptions did stop for a few hours, but as you're about to see, they picked right back up again. This morning, sparks violently spurting into the air with 2 new lava vents erupting overnight.
This subdivision is right in the middle of the most active East Rift zone of any volcano on this planet. So it's hard to say when this might stop.
10 fissures now open, all running along a line here in these 2 neighborhoods on Hawaii's Big Island. The mounds of molten lava flowing from them converging, crawling towards homes, destroying at least 5 buildings so far.
Guys need to evacuate now.
Ira Haas recording as one of the first cracks opened in the ground near his home, sending that molten debris rocketing into the air.
It was just like, you know, and just erupting like a jet engine, and then it sounded like bombs. Like you could feel like underneath the earth, like somebody punching, and it was just like poof, poof.
He and Mapuana Hawaneo among the 1,800 people forced to evacuate.
You're leaving behind a lot of memories, moving away where you grew up and starting all over again.
Now learning many of them will be allowed to return home, possibly as soon as today. Able to collect some belongings, but told they'll have to immediately leave again, with officials anticipating more eruptions and more earthquakes.
The numbers have gone down, the frequency's gone down, but they're still there. This is by no means over.
But their main concern is about that lingering danger from sulfur dioxide seeping from these fissures. The toxic fumes still hanging in the air this morning, creating what officials call an immediate threat to life. And the levels are still so high in some areas that about half of the evacuees still are not going to be allowed back in. You can see where volunteers have set up a center here with blankets, water, food, the essentials for what could still be a long wait ahead for things to quiet down here.
They're going to need those essentials as we head into this disaster with no end in sight. Thank you, Marcy. We really appreciate it. We're going to stay on this story for sure, but we turn now to politics. And overnight, fresh eyebrow-raising statements from the president's top attorney, Rudy Giuliani.
Yeah, Giuliani has been making a lot of headlines with a series of public appearances and was even at one point publicly contradicted by the president. Overnight, Giuliani admitted he is still learning the facts of this case. George Stephanopoulos is standing by with analysis, but we're going to start with ABC's White House correspondent, Tara Palmieri, who was at the White House for us this morning. Tara, good morning.
Good morning, Dan and Paula. That's right. Giuliani was back on TV doing damage control after his media blitz last week, but he offered very little to clear up the facts about what the president knew about the Stormy Daniels payment and when. He says he's still learning the facts.
Overnight, the president's lawyer Rudy Giuliani on Fox News attempting to clean up statements he made last week.
The facts I'm still learning.
This after he revealed that the president repaid his other lawyer, Michael Cohen, for a hush agreement signed by adult film actress Stormy Daniels. Giuliani offering no new information on when and what the president knew about the payments, but admitting
this is, 1.2 million documents. I've been in the case for 2 weeks, virtually 1 day in comparison to other people. So I'm not an expert on the facts yet. I'm getting there.
Giuliani's revelation contradicted what the president and the White House have said all along about that $130,000 payout to Daniels, that Trump had no knowledge of it.
Did you know about the $130,000 payment to Stormy Daniels?
Giuliani still not clarifying the timeline, but doubling down.
The president of the United States did not in any way violate the campaign finance law.
The hard-charging former prosecutor was brought on to Trump's legal team to turn up the heat on special counsel Robert Mueller. His team wants a sit-down interview with Trump as part of their investigation into obstruction of justice and possible collusion between the Trump campaign and Russia.
I would love to speak. I would love to go. Nothing I want to do more.
But Giuliani making the sit-down seem more of a challenge.
When you look at the questions they propound, what do you think? What do you feel? It's like, come on in and commit perjury.
Even hinting on Fox News that he thinks the case will end up in the Supreme Court, and the Stormy Daniels case still plaguing the president. Overnight, Daniels made a surprise appearance on Saturday Night Live to taunt the president.
I know you don't believe in climate change, but a storm's a-coming, baby.
Just tell me, what do you need for this to all go away?
A resignation?
Giuliani, who was on the short list for Secretary of State, is back wading into foreign policy. Here he is on stage pretending to rip up the Iran nuclear deal, saying that's what the president will likely do. He even added that the president is committed to regime change. Dan, Paula?
Likely to be seen as provocative. Tara, thank you very much. Tara Palmieri weighing in from the White House this morning. As promised, let's bring in ABC News Chief Anchor George Stephanopoulos, who's going to be hosting this week a little later this morning.
Guys.
Good
morning,
sir.
George.
So let's start with Rudy Giuliani. You have an exclusive Sunday morning interview with him. In terms of his recent public statements about the Stormy Daniels issue, do you discern a strategy here?
Well, the only thing I can think is, as Tara pointed out in her piece, the White House had consistently denied this. We saw President Trump there on Air Force One saying he didn't know about the payments. They must have come across evidence that, in fact, the president did make these payments. Otherwise, they wouldn't have wanted to get it out. I think that was the strategy behind the initial revelation from Rudy Giuliani on Fox News on Wednesday night. But as the president has said, and as now Rudy has said himself, he didn't have all of his facts straight. And there still are a lot of facts to nail down right now about why the payment was made, when it was made, what the president knew about it, when he knew about it. And the president also has some vulnerability on those campaign finance laws. Now, the White House is saying, and Giuliani saying, it had nothing to do with the campaign. Michael Avenatti, the lawyer for Stormy Daniels, says there's a lot of evidence that, in fact, it was about the campaign.
Still so many questions that need to be answered. So Giuliani said in the piece that this could go all the way to the Supreme Court, but overnight he made it seem unlikely that the president's going to sit down with Mueller. But can't Mueller just subpoena him?
Well, that's the whole question. Will Mueller subpoena him? If he subpoenas him, must President Trump comply? And that's the case that could go to the Supreme Court if the president refuses to comply with a subpoena from Robert Mueller. Now, other presidents have been subpoenaed. We know that Richard Nixon was subpoenaed over the tapes, and he was required and compelled to turn those tapes over by the courts back in 1973. Bill Clinton appeared before the grand jury during the Ken Starr investigation. So if, indeed, Mueller follows through with the subpoena, if President Trump refuses to comply with that, this is likely to go all the way to the Supreme Court.
Interesting. Fascinating.
The president was out on the stump in Ohio and said that he said again that he was willing to shut down the government if he doesn't get his wall. Do you think this is red meat he's throwing to his supporters, or do you think this is a real strategy he can or will pursue?
Well, he certainly can if he wants to. I can only imagine what Mitch McConnell, Paul Ryan, House and Senate Republicans are thinking if this happens when it would be sometime in September,
right
6 or 8 weeks before the midterms, the government shuts down over this. I don't even think they want to contemplate that. I don't think this will happen. I don't think the president will follow through. But as you point out, he's made these threats before, and he seems like he means it now.
Just 6 months until the midterms. George, thank you. We got a big show coming up, so we're going to let you go.
Thank you, guys.
As a reminder, you can see his exclusive interview with Rudy Giuliani coming up on This Week.
Plus, Stormy Daniels' attorney, Michael Avenatti, will be responding live. That's coming up on This Week right here on ABC.
And another big story, the White House is monitoring closely this morning the 3 Americans that are being detained in North Korea. They could be released any moment.
ABC's Stephanie Ramos is in Washington with a look at these 3 men and how their fates could be tied to the planned summit, a high-stakes summit between President Trump and the North Korean leader Kim Jong-un. Stephanie, good morning.
Dan and Paula, good morning. It's still unclear when those 3 Americans detained in North Korea will be released, especially now that North Korea says the U.S. is claiming that Washington's political pressure and sanctions are what drove Pyongyang to the negotiating table. They don't seem to agree with that. The North's official news agency quotes a foreign ministry spokesman who says the U.S. is deliberately provoking the DPRK at the time when the situation on the Korean peninsula is moving toward peace and reconciliation. So here's what we know about the men detained. Kim Dong-chul, he's 60 years old and has been held the longest in North Korea. He was detained back in 2015, accused of being a spy for South Korea and sentenced to 10 years of hard labor. Then there's Tony Kim and Kim Hak-song, who were both teaching at North Korea's only private university, both detained as they tried to leave the country at different times.
What would their release mean for this impending meeting between President Trump and Kim Jong-un that so many are looking forward to?
Yeah, well, Paula, honestly, who can really say at this point, but it could clearly be used as a bargaining chip in the larger negotiation. We've seen it happen before. Hostages were released by Iran before the Iran nuclear deal was finalized. So U.S. officials, they tell us they have every expectation that the 3 detainees will be released before the summit. But Dan and Paula, of course, that could always change. Back over to you.
Stephanie, thank you. Fast-moving developments on this story. Back here at home, there are new developments this morning in that deadly shooting at the Waffle House near Nashville, Tennessee. The suspect is set to make his first court appearance on Monday.
Yeah, this as we're learning of a major miscue after the first 911 calls. ABC's Ariel Reshef has more on what exactly went down. Ariel, good morning.
Good morning to you, Paula and Dan. This case is so high profile, the judge has imposed a gag order preventing both sides from talking about it to try to guarantee a fair trial. Every detail of the deadly incident now under the microscope, including the new revelation that when those first 911 calls came in, officers were sent to the wrong location.
This morning, the suspected Waffle House shooter is preparing for his day in court. Travis Ranking scheduled to make his first in-person appearance before a judge on Monday. The 29-year-old charged with criminal homicide in the April 22nd shooting rampage at this Waffle House in a Nashville suburb that left 4 people dead. Ranking captured after a frantic 36-hour manhunt. An alert 911 caller helping cops take him down.
I'd get somebody over here. This is right where he lived. The suspect y'all are looking for.
But now the same 911 service that helped catch him is itself at the center of new questions.
Waffle House 816 Murfreesboro Pike said someone is shot.
According to audio obtained by affiliate WKRN, after the first call of a shooting came in, 911 dispatchers initially sent officers to a different Waffle House, nearly 9 miles from where the attack was actually taking place.
And we're being advised that this is not the Waffle House at 816, that it's going to be the one at 3571 Murfreesboro Pike.
An official from the Nashville Emergency Communications Center telling WKRN that 911 call came from a cell phone and the caller didn't know the address. When the GPS technology that isolates callers' cell phone signals wasn't able to immediately pinpoint the location, dispatchers sent police to the location they were familiar with, which turned out to be the wrong restaurant.
Time is absolutely critical in mass shootings because most of them are under 5 minutes.
In all, it took 6 minutes from the initial call for officers to arrive at the scene.
The director of Nashville's Emergency Communications Center tells ABC News, "We are reviewing the calls regarding the incident as we would in any critical incident. The initial callers were only able to give a street name, and additional information was obtained from there." It is worth mentioning right now that so far, police have not released a motive for this massacre.
Interesting, but definitely they lost some crucial moments.
Yeah,
Ariel.
6 minutes sounds short, but in that kind of situation, it's an eternity. Exactly.
Absolutely. Thank you, Ariel.
Thanks, Ariel. Let's send things over to Ron Claiborne for a look at the other headlines that we're tracking this morning. Good morning, Ronald.
Hey, good morning to you, Paula and Dan. Good morning, everyone. I'm going to begin in Chicago with the intensive manhunt underway right now for a gunman who shot and wounded an ATF agent and then fled. A member of a new anti-gang task force partnered with the Chicago PD was shot while working as on an undercover operation to crack down on illegal guns. That's happened on Friday. Doctors saying they expect him, the ATF agent, to make a full recovery. Overseas, in Russia, mass arrests as protesters took to the streets just ahead of Vladimir Putin's inauguration for a fourth term as president. On Monday, Putin foe Alexei Navalny organized this event called "He Is Not Our Tsar." Navalny himself was arrested along with more than 1,600 others. And back here in the U.S., in Parkland, Florida, seniors at Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School celebrated their prom Saturday night, less than 3 months after a gunman walked into their school, killing 17 people. The seniors honoring one of their classmates, 18-year-old Meadow Pollock, one of 4 seniors who died in that attack, with a pink limo. The community coming together, donating the venue, food, and transportation for the night. And new federal data shows that the state of California has surpassed the United Kingdom and become the world's 5th largest economy. California's gross national product, domestic product, grew by $127 billion from 2016 2017 to more than $2.7 trillion. Ranked ahead of California, the U.S., all of the U.S., China, Japan, and Germany. In Louisville, Kentucky, there was a horse race yesterday. And guess who won? Justify, predicted by Matt Dowd, splashed his way to victory and also into Derby history, becoming the first colt in 136 years to win the Run for Roses, but not having raced as a 2-year-old last year. Saturday's Derby also set another record, the National Weather Service declaring it, along with Sam Champion, the wettest on record. And finally, in Cleveland, Ohio, there's a reason why they call him the King. Take a look at this. With time running out, the Cavaliers and Toronto Raptors tied. That's LeBron James, the King. Final score. There it is. Did it again.
Oh, no.
Final score.
So
yeah, he's really good. Final score. Cavs 105, Toronto Raptors 103. The Cavaliers, they're celebrating taking a 3-0 lead in that best-of-7 series. The two teams meet again tomorrow night, Game 4 in Cleveland. I think Cleveland's going to win that series.
You think so?
Yeah,
3-0.
Going out on a limb.
They're going to close.
Yeah, Toronto are a good team.
You're a brave man.
Your Celtics look like they're going to close things out against the 76ers. They're up 3-0.
The Newton Celtics.
Yeah, they're playing.
The Newton
Celtics. That's the way we viewed them when I was a child. Hey, Sam Champion's here. What's going on? I already hear you laughing.
Good morning, everybody. Well, we've got some good news. We've got to get this round of showers and even a few thunderstorms off the East Coast. Then we settle into a quiet pattern for a couple of days. This is another pattern that might actually suppress strong storms in parts of the country. So let's talk about that. Let's get this rain out of the way, but it is during the day today. It's coastal Carolinas that'll get the heavier rain. May even see some as this rain is pushed off, kind of work up toward the Ocean City, Maryland and Long Island area. We'll clear that by Monday morning. We'll start to get that out of the way and then watch these temperatures kind of get into a nice position. Well, we have a couple of days of cool air hanging around the Great Lakes into the New England area. This is going to feel really cool because we're back into the 40s for morning temperatures. Remember, we were in the 80s and 90s for Friday. We'll be back into the 50s and 60s eventually, but it feels kind of cool. Meanwhile, into the southwest, we're really building up some big heat. This could be the warmest temperatures we've seen so far this year in 2018. We'll threaten some records in the Arizona, all the way in the Phoenix, Arizona, all the way into Vegas area. And that heat is real. It spreads across the country for the middle to the end of next week. That's the weather around the nation. Here's what you can expect this morning.
Temperatures this morning in the low 60s. More wet weather on the way. Showers and a few thunderstorms coming this afternoon. So keep an eye to the sky if you're heading out to Nationals Park. That first pitch at 1:35. Taking a look at our future cast between about 3 and 5 o'clock. A few claps of thunder possible and a few heavier downpours. Now, as we head into the early half of this week, sunshine going to clear us out on Monday. And with that, temperatures back in the low 70s. We'll be at 78 degrees by Wednesday, low 80s by Thursday, Friday.
And in the next half hour, we're going to show you how this pattern could actually mean just very few storms this week, which would be good in spring.
Hey, guys, I'm in a bad mood this morning. You know why?
Why?
Is this your sad
Is this your bad
That's
mood
his
face?
sad smirk.
See, that doesn't
Yes,
work.
his smirk.
It doesn't work because you see, you don't mean it.
No, but you make me smile so much that I can't. It's his last morning with us.
I know.
I wore a dark suit to connote a